So it's been a while since I last done one of these videos, but with there being a new hero out in Marvel's Avengers, of course we're back with the exotic and legendary set showcase. So what I've done, I've managed to find the tooltips for all the different legendary and exotic sets available for Black Panther, and I've took all that information and I've put it into infographics so you can see at a quick reference where you can get the best gear for Black Panther, and also if it's actually worth farming in the first instance. Now the tooltips came from my community, they're able to find all this information, so huge thanks to Baruch, KD Sweets, Crispin, Crix, T-White Ninja, Lexan, Luke Baxter and Cable 616. They really came through with getting all this information so I could get the infographics done. Now before we jump in and we start breaking them all down, if the video is helpful, please take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button. And let's now jump in and check out these sets. Two things to quickly mention here before we break these down. When you look at the legendary sets, the third perk will always be random, so it means in some occasion, depending on how strong the third perk is on the exotic version of this set, the legendary may actually be better. And secondly, the stats will all be static on these gear pieces. You'll get 2 out of 3 of the different stats. Sometimes you can actually get 3 rolling in fact, but they'll be static. So as an example, on the melee slot 1 here, you'll only ever get might, proficiency and resilience rolling on it, but you might only get 2 of them sometimes. But this item we're looking at comes from the elite vaults. If the elite vaults aren't shown on your map, go into Day of the Remains and you can farm a vault key from there. The vault keys within that show underground vaults in the level. The first item we look at, the melee one. So this one, Percussive Blast, 20% increased stun, status and damage while Percussive Blast is active. If you're running an intrinsic build, you'll be able to get 100% uptime on your Percussive Blast. So this could actually be pretty useful. We then have Variable Effect. This will show up in quite a lot of items. This is where it's a random status effect on a random attack attached to the item. So for example, this is a melee slot, so it will be a random melee attack. It could be a power attack, it could be a light or heavy combo finisher, for example. So pretty random there. But the Percussive Blast could be a useful perk. Looking at the range slot 2 here, you've got Pounce Instinct. So defeating an enemy with Pounce restores Panther Cowl, intrinsic energy, heroic energy and 5% health. Now I've actually heard that when using this, when it says it restores your Panther Cowl intrinsic energy, it fully restores it. So again, if you're looking to run a Percussive Blast build where you perhaps keep spamming it, you could use this item here, and what you would do is jump on an enemy, pounce on them, get full intrinsic, do your Percussive Blast and then just keep repeating that over and over. The second perk is a variable effect, so once again it's a status effect on a random ranged attack, so it means it will be on either Devastating Daggers or the 2 other finishing daggers you can get. The defense slot 3, this is broken at the moment in game and it probably won't last, so if you're watching this video at a later date, I imagine this won't be the case, but for now, when you equip this, it increases your damage by something like times 10, which is absolutely insane. So it's completely broken, and if you want to go in and melt the Super Adaptoid and the Mega Level Threat, for example, put this on for now, but it most likely will be patched pretty soon. But what it does outside of that bug, you've got Pounce Guard, reduce the reaction severity of enemy attacks and gain 25% damage reduction, while Pounce doesn't really put much value in that one. And then the next one, we don't have the name of the perk, but we can see what it does. It extends the duration of Kimoyo beads by 6 seconds. Beads are really nice for stunning, but I don't know if I would use this slot here and I would sacrifice a reactive buff, like reactive damage or something along the lines of that, just for an extra 6 seconds on the beads. The final item we have here, Heroic slot. So you've got King's Mercy Effector, 20% increase in stun, status and all damage of King's Mercy. That's when you throw out your spear. Personally, it seems really underwhelming, the spear, but if anyone in the comments below is running a Valor build and can get nice damage on it, let me know, because in that instance it might be worthwhile bumping up the damage by that extra 20%. The next one, we don't have the name of the perk, but we see what it does. So it's using King's Mercy while overcharge deals increased damage and instantly triggers the Vibranium status effect on targets hit. Don't really rate that one that much, to be honest. So looking at the different items here, you've got the slot 3 that's bugged. You've got the slot 2, which can be nice for an intrinsic build where you're spamming your Percussive Blast, and then also the slot 1 can be decent because you have high uptime on that Percussive Blast as well. But let's check out the next set. The next set we have here is your elite bosses. So this is the 2 bosses you can fight each day via your faction missions, so you don't have much chance to actually farm these. Looking at slots 1 and 2, really underwhelming. These are just variable effects on different attacks, so I really wouldn't recommend them at all. Too random, they're just like a random gear piece, to be honest. Moving on to the slot 3 and 4, these are really nice. The slot 3, this one is untouchable beads, so you gain recovery beads for a brief duration after defeating enemies with intrinsic attacks or when perfectly evading an incoming attack. I've got this myself and I actually really like it. So when I dodge, you have a little bead come out and it heals you up, which is really pretty awesome. You've then got the next one. We don't have the name of the perk, but it's 20% increase in stun, status and all damage of intrinsic attacks. So if you're spamming intrinsic attacks on Black Panther, this is really nice. We have up next the heroic slot. This one's got Bast's Chosen amplification, 20% increased damage and defense while Bast's Chosen is active. Bast's Chosen is your heroic ultimate. It already has a steroid buff in it, so this makes the buff even stronger. On top of this, the second perk increases the duration of Bast's Chosen by 8.5 seconds. Absolutely love this gear piece. This is the one I actually use on the melee build that I'm running for Black Panther. The random perk at the bottom here, what I would look for is defeating 3 enemies gives you a heroic charge burst, so you can actually use the ultimate more often and get the steroid portion of it with a higher uptime. But that's the elite bosses. Let's check out the next one. This next set we look at here comes from your elite hives. This is your 6th floor hives. You can run these as much as you actually want. It takes about 20 minutes or so. So looking at the melee slot 1, you've got Panther's Cunning. Traversal intrinsic attacks deal status effect damage based on what type of melee status gear is equipped. And then you can see you've got a variable effect there. This could be useful if you're running a ranged Black Panther. Yes, you won't get precision in this slot, but it means you could use your movement abilities to quickly apply a status, and then you could use the opposite status on your range. So I need to actually test this one out. Looking at the range slot 2, you get Devastating Multiplier. Increases the maximum amount of times the debuff from the Devastating daggers can stack by 1. The debuff adds on a flat extra 3%, so this isn't worthwhile going for at all. You've got a variable effect as well, but I wouldn't use this item. I would much rather look for a damage buff on range crit, for example. Looking at the slot 3, this could actually be pretty good. It's quite similar to what Clint has in his kit. So you've got Auto Deflect, 12% chance to automatically activate Panther Kill when taking damage, completely negating the attack, and you'll gain a little bit of intrinsic energy because you've negated an attack as well, and also 25% increased intrinsic energy regen speed when below the base threshold. If you're trying to run an intrinsic build where you're maybe spamming Percussive Blast, this could be decent, this one. Looking at the final one here, you've got Adored One's Multiplier. Summon an additional Spectral Warrior when using Adored One's Specialization Bast's Chosen, so 3 at a time. Sounds pretty nice. On paper I was really excited with this, but when you actually see it in action, the damage numbers are really pretty low. If you're running a Valor build and you can get nice damage out of it, do let me know. But when I played around with adding some Valor onto Black Panther, I really wasn't seeing anything that made it worthwhile using this specialisation for the ultimate at all. But the next perk, this could be good for an intrinsic build, again a Percussive Blast one. So enemies hit by King's Mercy will generate an intrinsic orb. I believe one intrinsic orb actually fills you all the way up. So what you could do is you could run the spec where you can throw the 3 spears and they actually recharge really quick. So essentially you could have full intrinsic on demand and use that with your Percussive Blast. That's a potential idea there. Let's now check out the first exotic set. So this first exotic set we look at comes from the Elite Heroic Hives, also known as Last Avengers Standing. That's the 14 floor hives that take about an hour to complete. The drop rate on exotics from this is pretty low, so it can be a slow farm this. The actual set, we looked at the equivalent legendary version of it earlier on in the video. The only difference with this one and the legendary one is that the third perk isn't random. So it's just actually the third perk I'll read out, because we've already ran over perks 1 and 2 in this set. So if we look at the melee slot 1 first, you've got dagger attacks on enemies, debuff from the Devastating Daggers build, 1.5% Panther Kill intrinsic energy for each dagger. Not that impressive a perk. As mentioned earlier on in the video, if I was to use this, it would be for the top perk where you get the increased stun, status and damage while Percussive Blast is active. Looking at the slot 2 here, the ranged one, you've got increase the duration of debuff from the Devastating Daggers by 3 seconds. The debuff is nice, but I don't know how much value I actually put into extending it by 3 seconds there. Again, if I was to use this, it would be for the top perk, the one where when you pounce and defeat an enemy, you actually fully restore your intrinsic energy. We have Nahanda's armour. This will be bugged like the legendary version, but if you're watching this in future, once again, it's most likely been patched. The third perk down, all actions that generate intrinsic energy will generate 20% additional energy. This isn't worthwhile at all. You can build intrinsic pretty quick as it is. And then the final item here, the heroic slot, we've got enemies affected by Kimoyo beads take 20% more status, stun and critical damage. If you were to put this alongside the second perk on the slot 3, the one that extends the duration of Kimoyo beads by 6 seconds, you might have something going on there, but I don't think it's enough to make a really powerful build or anything like that, but there is a bit of synergy between the two perks. Let's now check out the next exotic set. So this set here is the exotic version of the pretty nice legendary elite boss set. So we'll just cover the third perk, because once again we've talked about perks 1 and 2 already. So looking at your melee slot 1, all actions that generate intrinsic energy will generate 10% additional energy. I couldn't recommend that at all. The slot 2, the ranged one, I really like the idea of this. So you've got status effect on ranged attacks for 2 different attacks. So one will be devastating daggers and another one will be one of the finishers. So it's basically all the attacks, even if you're using a finisher. And then you've got 25% increase in stun, status and all normal damage of daggers. That's really pretty amazing. But the problem when you use an item such as this is you're not getting your damage buff and ranged crit. This is why I hate the damage buff. This is why I wish it was removed from the game. It just limits gear so much. If you were to use this, you'll need to get your damage buff on your slot 3 or your slot 4 instead. But actually looking at the slot 3 here, the third perk down, it's defeating enemies while percussive blast is active will extend duration of ability by 2.5 seconds. This is really good. If you're going to use this gear piece, go for the exotic version because you won't get a third perk on the legendary version that will be as good as this. Finishing up then, we have the heroic slot. So the bottom perk here, melee attacks slowly regenerate willpower while percussive blast is active. That's decent, but I mentioned earlier on in the video for this third perk, you can actually get, for example, your damage buff, heroic burst or intrinsic burst on defeating 3 enemies instead, and that's far better than a little bit of energy that just regenerates. So that is all the legendary and exotic sets and where to actually farm them. Let me know in the comments below which ones you like the look of, and if you're coming up with any particular builds on the back of actually seeing this video. And if the video was helpful, as always, take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button. And thanks for tuning in, stay safe, I'll see you all again soon.